Gloria, welcome and thank you for joining us. Just to get, obviously, just to kick this off, we're doing the highlights reel. I'm not sure if you heard me. We're doing, because you were going in and coming out. We're just doing the highlights reel in terms of what is it that we need to know desperately about your organization and some of the work that you are doing, obviously about yourself as well.
Okay, thanks, Yavi. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. I'm joining in from Nairobi. So my name is Gloria Atuheirwe from TradeMark East Africa. I am the Director for Gender, Inclusion, and Women in Trade program. So TradeMark East Africa is really an aid for trade organization. And our mission really is to grow prosperity through trade in the region. We're currently in 13 countries across the continent. And primarily we do work in two ways. One is to address the barriers to trade, which could be in form of infrastructure, it could be in form of policy or trade systems and processes, which is sort of the supply side of our work. And then the other side of the coin is to really grow competitiveness and also ensure inclusion. And that's really where my portfolio sits. And the idea is to try and bridge the gap, to bridge the inequalities that exist in trade, and just to empower women through trade. So my program in itself really looks at social and economic empowerment of women. And that's really looking at building a holistic value for trade from women. We work across the spectrum, and I like what you said, both the formal and informal, women informal or informal, whether they're producers or exporters or cross-border traders, of course, who are the majority. We try and work across the entire segment and just see what we can do to address the barriers that they face that are unique to women, and also to grow, one, their participation in trade, but also the value, their contribution in that trade space. And Yavi, if you can allow me to just share two really examples of the kind of work that we've done from the different segments. One, from women who are informal, trading doing cross-border trade. We work with a group of women who have physical disability. So we brought them together. We helped them to form a group, and then registered the group, and they were able to start doing trade. The thing about those who know about borders in Africa, most people with disabilities are used as transporters because they have some kind of wheelchair. So usually they're used to simply move goods from one end to the border to the other. But we worked with these women to actually start to do their own trade. So they buy their own stock and they actually are involved in trade. They're not just transporters. And I thought that for me was a story of transformation and the kind of thing we'd want to see scaled up across different borders in Africa. On the other hand, we also work with SMEs, women who are in the ag sector. This particular project was in Kenya, and we worked in building up a whole threshold of women who are aggregators, source agents. We know very well, usually that was coined as a middleman's role, but this particular project worked to build women to do that role, sourcing from other women, and it was really exciting to see, women's incomes double. They're able to negotiate better. They're able to transact better. They're empowered to do what traditionally was seen to be a men's role, particularly in sectors like grain, which a lot of the high-end value is commanded by men. So that's just some of the examples of what we've done in TradeMark. Yavi?
Thank you, Gloria. It looks like Yavi, she's in Morocco right now, and I'm not so sure if she's having an issue with her internet, but I guess I'll take over from there. Thank you, Gloria, for sharing that and saying, really, if you empower women, and you support them, then you see transformation, right? You see a direct difference in the lives of the people that they are around. So thank you very much for the work that you do at TradeMark East Africa. Could you maybe share the research that she was talking about in regards to women empowerment? As the Director of Gender, I believe you can share more about that. Could you clarify more about that and the economic gender, how it links the economic agenda of Africa. Thank you, Gloria.
Okay, yeah, thanks, Anna. So the research we wanted to share is about the care economy. I think a lot of conversations globally now around that area. So what we decided to do was investigate the care economy, but in the context of cross-border trade, and also the linkage to the gender-based violence, because we realized there's some bit of issues there that really affect how women engage in trade. And indeed, we really found interesting, this was done in 3 countries. We found some interesting findings, and I'll just share some of what we found is that in terms of time, women spend about 3 hours of their time on care work, but they're also spending about 6 to 11 hours trading. So if you look at that, that's really a full day. That means 9 to 12 hours in a day, but 3 of those is spent on care work. And then we found that because of care work, many of them are not able to engage in trading across borders. That means they're less mobile, they have to be closer to home, they have to work within, that parameter with near home. And that, of course, is a barrier in itself. Then we found that they lose 30% of their trading time because of care, which I thought was really a huge amount of time. So they have to make a choice. Do I stay home and mind my baby? Do I go out and look for a market or network or whatever? So 30% of that time is lost, potentially what could be trading time. But also we found that the more time they spent away from home, maybe networking or looking for a market, there's also increased gender-based violence in the home. A lot of the violence experienced by these ladies is from their partners, their spouse, which is really sad. But we found a correlation there. So the more time you spend trying to find a market, the higher your risk of being a victim of gender-based violence. And so that's really what made the main, and then another thing that we found that was interesting, it didn't matter your age, it didn't matter the amount of money you're making, it didn't matter the kind of trade you're in, the violence is irrespective of all those parameters. So it doesn't mean that because you bring more money or less money, you're less vulnerable. And so the question is then, what do we do about this? Because we cannot look at growing value in terms of trade in our case without looking at all the other things affecting this woman. So looking at the care and the dynamics of care and gender-based violence and violence against women is something that we're looking at more centrally and trying to say, okay, how can we help these women? So I'll just talk about 3 things TradeMark ourselves are doing. One is around market infrastructure, finding a place in physical markets, a small creche or, just a space where women can, if they have young children, they can come to the market with them. So we've done that in Somaliland, we've done that in South Sudan, and now we're doing it in Kenya at the Busia border. And that really helps a woman to make a choice to say, I can come to the market with my toddler will be safe, I can make a living through trade. The second thing, of course, is sensitization. We're no experts in GBV, but GBV is a big thing. It's really crippling a lot of women's participation or ability to participate. So we're doing sensitization. And one of the things we're doing is also to engage the men who are also in the same trade or the partners of these women and say, this income, this empowerment is for the good of your family, is for the good of your economy. It sounds like a basic thing, but it's not. And so sensitization is really at the core of what we're doing. But also, the other thing is to find time-saving solutions. And one of them could be digital. Can a woman be able to trade without moving? Because if movement is going to be the issue, can she trade in the comfort of her home or her community? So digital solutions are going to play a big role in abating some of these challenges. We have our own solution we've developed. We call it the ISOCO platform. And it's just primarily to help a woman find out about the markets, find out about trade, find out about logistics providers. I had people talk about logistics earlier. Where can I find a transporter, a border? It doesn't matter, depending on the need that she's looking for. Can I get that from a phone or a handheld device? Whether it's a smartphone or a feature phone, we are providing for both of these. But the idea is to save time, but also preserve value from trade. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Gloria.
Gloria, what would yours look like?
Yeah, Pauline just stole my vision, but
we'll work
anyway,
together.
I still think that the informal economy is the place to start. I agree entirely, just because of the vastness, the bearing on employment, food security, and livelihoods. But I would look at it's not really the top, it's somewhere in the middle segment. Some economists refer to it as the hidden middle. So these are women who are not really small and fragmented, but they're not established either. They're somewhere in the middle of that pyramid. I would put a lot of my energy there, because I think that's where the transformation would come. And I think many women get stuck there. So how to graduate them and grow the value in that space would really be my focus if I became the Minister of Trade, but also to look at the data issue. Someone talked about data, I think the whole of this day, the last 2 days. We need to understand this economy, and the only way, the informal economy, and the only way to do that is to get the data, proper data, saying who are these people, what are they doing, what does it look like? We need to understand that. We need to invest in that data. I think we talk about informal cross-border trade, for instance, but we really don't have the numbers. We really don't have real numbers, and half the time is because they are not recognized. They're under the radar. Nobody is really recording. So that's what I'll do. Thanks, Yavi.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. If you can't measure something, how do you manage it? And if you can't manage it, how are you able to talk about it? So we can't claim that as women, we contribute so much to the economy if we don't even know what it is. So there's intention sometimes in absence.